Okay, picking up where we left off, we're on page 104 now, getting ready to talk about the proc folder. Remember now, everything in Linux is a file. So if I did ls, only if I get focus, the ls on this folder called proc, it's going to tell me all sorts of weird stuff. This, believe it or not, is a listing of all the process IDs that are currently running in the system. Yeah, remember, everything is a file. So let's do this one more time. I do an ls minus al on /proc. And, you know, which ones are run by root, you know, all the kind of good stuff, right? Okay, cool. Anyway, the idea is, so ps uses the stuff inside proc, and vmstat and top, all these people, all these commands use stuff that's in proc, because proc is just a file system view of those processes. Okay, there's one called strace. It's very, very geeky, and I'm not going to demo it. But what it basically means is allow me to look inside a process and look at the threads. And we're not going to be doing that, but you know, strace is a really cool and powerful. You know, how much memory is that one particular thing using, and all the rest of that. A runaway process. So if you look at the vert column in Axel, I believe it's Axel. I have a 50-50 chance of getting this right. Doggone it. I was trying to type it through less. Okay. Well, it's kind of... okay, so it's not Axel. It's Ox. Okay. Well, it still gives me the virtual size. Anyway, there's a vert column that basically talks about how much virtual memory something is using. And so percent memory and percent CPU is pretty good, but this virtual memory tells me basically how much. Now you'd expect the very first one is fake. You know, the init command, it's not actually consuming 77,000 996 bytes. But this is the amount of virtual RAM that something is using. So if I have a stuck process that's just chewing up, man, that vert command, a vert column is going to be the one that tells me, you know, which one is stuck. Okay, page 109, we're talking about how do I do a scheduled task? You know how in the Windows world you could go to the control panel and then admin tools, and you had this thing called a task scheduler, so I could set something up. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, I wanted you to go do something. Okay, well, they have the same thing here. The name of the task scheduling daemon, remember the crazy name called daemon, is called cron. The thing that you type to make this thing happen is called cron tab. Now, which is kind of weird, because if I said cron tab, it's basically going to, spell it right, C-R-O, cron tab. It basically is going to come up and say, okay, what do you want me to do, all right? So there is a way you can go in there and tell it how to do something. For example, listing all of the stuff. I'm gonna do man cron tab. Let me if I spell it right. Dang. Okay. So this is a thing that sets up where you want your cron tab file, and then all the things you want to happen inside it. It's kind of complicated. Generally speaking, there's system level cron tab, which means those things that the system takes care of, and then there's user level cron tabs, the things that you want to be done periodically. So the system might want to do something like every time you log in, I want to check for security updates. By the way, that's already been set up. But you might want to do something slightly different. And so there's this whole thing on how you can make that thing work. So there's a system-wide one, and then there's individual user ones. So cron tab is a little funky. The format for it is weird. If you look at that table 4.5 on page 110, the way you tell it, okay, I want it every 2 hours, or I want every day, you type in the day with an asterisk and a space, and it's kind of clumsy, I'll admit. So when you create a cron tab for some task to happen at 2 o'clock in the morning every day, it's going to look a little weird. But once you run it once or twice, it's not that difficult. There's some alternatives to cron. There's one called System D timers. You remember when System D came in, it provided alternatives or replacements for a lot of things. It's got more fields. For example, cron is kind of dumb. It's just going to do what he told it to do. But using the System D timers, I can have other fields like the niceness, right? That'd be kind of cool. And have more triggers. So the cron tab, the trigger is just going to be the clock. I mean, if you told it to do something at 2 a.m. and it's not 2 a.m., it's just going to sit around and wait for 2 a.m. And that's it. But using System D timers, I can have other things like when I run out of disk space, I want you to do this. Or when someone logs in, I want you to do this. So things other than have nothing to do with the time of day. Okay? So they're better. Okay? So the typical use for a cron job would be like periodic disk cleanup. You know, maybe I want to do a disk integrity check once a month or something like that. Ooh, maybe I want to do weekly backups. But, you know, at 2 o'clock, I don't want to do backups while I'm, I just want to set it up. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's going to do a backup of the root file system and throw it off on some tape somewhere. That'd be a good use for a cron tab, wouldn't it? Okay, so read that section. It's not too complicated. Cron is the name of the big boy that runs it all, but the actual command you type is called cron tab. And cron tab will allow you to create a cron tab file and allow you to add stuff to it. It's a little complicated, which is why I kind of went through this, but not very much. You know, all the options and getting them all removed and edit the thing. The cron tab with the E allows you to edit your cron tab file, that kind of stuff. Anyway, okay, we have reached the end, thank goodness. And I'll see you guys again in some future video.